And this is what Thomas Jefferson said, ladies and gentlemen, back in 1802. Quote, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." Ladies and gentlemen, how true is that? All you have to do is take a look around. And for those of you that are sitting pretty, making a six-figure salary, who have fat 401ks, a lot of money in savings in the bank, let me tell you that they're coming for you as well, whether you want to believe it or not. Hello YouTubers, Alaska Prepper here. Ladies and gentlemen, happy Monday, and I really do hope that you all had a great holiday weekend and that you all celebrated Christmas with your family and had a great time and made some memories. This is a very interesting article, ladies and gentlemen, and it is authored by Egon van Grey. And the reason that this article is pretty interesting to me is that it pretty much says everything that we've been talking about for a long while now, at least a year, if not more. Now, the painting that you're looking at is titled "The Triumph of Death," and it was painted in 1562, and it depicts what the end of life on Earth looks like. Now, ladies and gentlemen, Egon is not saying that this is where we're headed to, but what he's trying to explain here is that when there is chaos on Earth, meaning within us, the people that occupy Earth, it affects everyone. And I've often said that even preppers will be affected during this next downturn in the economy. The Black Death of the 14th century killed up to half the world's population and clearly had a major influence on the painter. The moral message is that when chaos hits, the destruction will affect everyone, rich and poor, young and old, and no one will escape by power or devotion. The financial, economic, and moral devastation which is about to hit the world will, for more than 99% of the people, come out of the blue like a flash from a clear sky. And this is something else that we've been talking about, ladies and gentlemen, is that when this comes, it's going to come in a hurry. It's not just going to take its time. Right now, we are still in a time where we can prepare. But when it finally hits, it's going to hit in a hurry. Talking about this order, just like the Black Death that inspired the painting, the world is now facing a global health crisis. But rather than the near 50% of the global population that perished in the mid-1300s, today we are looking at a total death from the current health crisis of 0.06% of the world population. And even that figure might be overestimated due to the classification rules applied. For that minuscule percentage, the world has now been paralyzed for the third year coming soon. There are lockdowns, quarantines, compulsory vitamin shots, and online boosters, along with what they are now calling, ladies and gentlemen, freedom passports. Closed schools, closed offices, major industries like leisure are hemorrhaging, airlines are going bankrupt, shortages of labor, components, products, closed borders, and for the few people who dare to and can travel across borders, more bureaucracy, paperwork, and tests than there is in a police state. At the same time, money printing and credit creation have gone exponential. Now, ladies and gentlemen, who can argue against anything that this gentleman has spoken of thus far? He continues to say that the politicians obviously blame the scientists for all the rules they are forcing upon the people. How convenient is that? It is interesting that with almost 200 countries in the world, each country has different rules how to deal with this health crisis. If all these rules were based on science, you would have thought that the rules would have been the same all over 200 countries. Or could it be, as many observers believe, that the politicians are using this health crisis to their own advantage? Now, ladies and gentlemen, how many times have we said, and how many times have you heard, never let a good crisis go to waste? Or is it more likely that neither the scientists nor the politicians have got a clue how to deal with a disease that creates hardly any deaths in excess of normal deaths? In Sweden, for example, there have been no lockdowns, no quarantines, no closed shops, no mask requirements, and industry has operated normally. And the deaths from this health crisis are lower in range than the European average. So much for all of these punishing rules in most countries. Ladies and gentlemen, we've always stated that this is about control. We were told that the vitamin shot would solve the problem, but so far they have not worked as promised. So now everyone needs a booster every few months. Big Pharma is being both judge and jury, plus benefiting from their own advice to the extent of hundreds of billions of dollars. How do we know the real truth? I've stated this in a recent video, ladies and gentlemen, that this has now become a trillion-dollar industry. This is the song that never ends, and it will not end until we the people stop singing it. As an example, I have a 19-year-old granddaughter who has had the vitamin back in August. Now she's gotten the sickness for the second time, fortunately in the form of a normal cold. The government/scientist solution is clearly more vitamin shots and even more frequent intervals. And so far, no one has properly tested the long-term effects that these vitamin shots may have on our bodies. There just isn't time for that. The consequences of these constant changing of rules and shutdowns will clearly have a devastating effect on an already very fragile world economy and financial system. So as scientists and governments haven't got a clue how to deal with this health crisis, we can at least assume that central bankers and governments have got the economy and the financial system under control. Absolutely not, ladies and gentlemen. This is a planned demolition. Ever since the Federal Reserve was created in 1913, central and commercial bankers have successfully been running the financial system for their own benefit. Let me say that again in case you didn't hear this. Central and commercial bankers have successfully been running the financial system for their own benefit. But what really gave them carte blanche to print unlimited amounts of money was back in 1971 when Nixon closed the gold window. Since then, President Thomas Jefferson's cynical view on bankers have really come to pass. And this is what Thomas Jefferson said, ladies and gentlemen, back in 1802. Quote, "I believe that banking institutions are more dangerous to our liberties than standing armies. If the American people ever allow private banks to control the issue of their currency, first by inflation, then by deflation, the banks and corporations that will grow up around the banks will deprive the people of all property until their children wake up homeless on the continent their fathers conquered." Ladies and gentlemen, how true is that? All you have to do is take a look around. And for those of you that are sitting pretty, making a six-figure salary, who have fat 401ks, a lot of money in savings in the bank, let me tell you that they're coming for you as well, whether you want to believe it or not. Jefferson will also be right regarding inflation and deflation. The current financial system is now entering a phase of inflation, most probably leading to hyperinflation. But before this financial system ends, the totally worthless debt must be destroyed through a deflationary implosion, not only of the debt, but also the bubble assets financed by printed money created out of thin air. Ladies and gentlemen, we've been talking about this for a while, that we are in an inflationary environment right now. But before it gets really, really bad, ladies and gentlemen, it's going to get deflationary. That's why I am a proponent of keeping a little bit of cash on the side, or as other people like to call it, some dry powder, so that you can take advantage of the sales when they come. Because there will be a deflationary moment or a deflationary time when you will be able to get things for less than what you can get them now. The only thing is that nobody knows how long that time will last. If history teaches us anything, it is that no one learns from history, and everyone thinks it is different today because we are here. We must remember that never in history has there been a global debt crisis of this magnitude. Never before have debt bubbles at this level in Europe, in North and South America, Asia, Africa, and Oceania synchronized at the levels that we are experiencing today. Just look at the magnitude of the debt which has been created since 1971. Of course, 1971 being the key date because it is when Nixon took us off the gold standard, and being that the U.S. Federal Reserve note is the reserve currency of the world, it affects everyone that uses the U.S. Federal Reserve note, i.e. the U.S. dollar. And as you can see down here, in 1971, global debt, ladies and gentlemen, Global debt in 1971 was less than what the government just tried to pass into a bill. I think it was $1.9 trillion or something like that, or 2 point something trillion dollars. Global debt was less. And you can see how it has shot up throughout the years. From 1971 to the year 2000, it went up about 60, 70 fold. From 2000 to 2021, it went from 100 trillion to 300 trillion. And ladies and gentlemen, it is projected that by the year 2030, the global debt will be in the quadrillions. Now, right now, the derivatives market itself is in the quadrillions. So imagine where the derivatives market will be in 2030 if global debt is in the quadrillions. Normally, governments need to start a war to have an excuse to print serious money. But this health crisis works even better. The world is now in totally uncharted and very precarious waters. A ship in such danger does not require more than a minor storm to be hit by irreparable damage. Nobody can forecast what will happen since we have nothing to compare it to. But what is very likely is that the creature from Jekyll Island that has been created by bankers and governments will reach a terrible fate. A fate that only future historians can tell the world about. Finally, we will have difficult times in the world, so helping family and friends is very important. It is everyone's responsibility to resist the triumph of death and achieve the triumph of survival, both financial and mental. For everybody, we can help. And remember that many of the best things in life are free. Friendship, music, books, nature, and many hobbies, as well as family. Now, ladies and gentlemen, this is where we are headed. I can't tell you that it will be tomorrow. I know that many people ask often, when is this going to happen? When is this big collapse going to happen? No one knows, but it is going to happen. Now the question is, are you going to be ready for it? That is the question. I love this time of the year, as I've stated several times, but we always have to keep reminding ourselves that we need to be prepared, that we need to stay prepared. Because eventually, 99.5% of the population, as stated by this gentleman, will be affected by this, ladies and gentlemen. You can have all the preps in the world, and you will still be affected by this. The question is how will you get through it, and how will you be on the other side? Will we be able to keep our humanity intact? And that is where friends, family come in, ladies and gentlemen. Help each other, love each other, and on the other side, we will create a better system than what we have now. That is my hope, at least. Having said that, remember to be good to each other. When good people do good things happen. Remember to reach one, teach one, and repeat. If we all did this, the world would be a better place, and you know that it will be a better place. Many blessings to all of you and your families. I'm Alaska Prepper. I am out.